Commandment number 4, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Now, I'll bet you didn't think that I would start a talk by quoting one of the 10 Commandments, right? Probably the furthest thing from your mind that I would do. But it got your attention, right? It's like, what is she up to with that? So when I was in seminary at One Spirit, one of the books that was required reading was this one, The 10 Challenges by Leonard Felder, PhD. And so in it, he takes the 10 Commandments and he reinterprets it as principles that, while difficult to live into, hence the word challenge, can really be helpful guides for us to live a full, abundant, purpose-filled life, if we understand it in a modern context. And so in the book, he says that the original Hebrew text, that is, and excuse my pronunciation, probably going to mangle this, but I'm going to try, Absarit ha-debrot. Absarit ha-debrot literally translates to the 10 words or the 10 things. So not commandments. That was a mistranslation from the Hebrew to the Greek to the English. 10 words, 10 things. That's a different feel, isn't it? It's a different understanding. It's like, oh, so not the rules that God is commanding us to obey in order to be in his good graces or, go to heaven after we die, but principles for living. Principles for living. And so he reinterprets each of the names of the commandments and, he puts it into something useful. Challenges that we can take on to increase our level of happiness and peace exponentially. So, for example, here is the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. He reinterprets as discover the still small voice within. Wow, that's different, right? Wow. And he goes on to talk about what that is and how to do that. Another one, commandment number 6, thou shalt not kill, is reinterpreted as what you can do to prevent the crushing of a person's spirit. What you can do to prevent the crushing of a person's spirit. Now that's something we can use, in our life. And so, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy is really the struggle to unhook from everyday pressures and connect with something profoundly joyful. The struggle to unhook from everyday pressures and connect with something profoundly joyful. Isn't that something we all want, right? We all want that and maybe need it, right? And it's difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy to do that. But here's how we can make it doable. Like anything else, if we break it down into small bite-sized chunks, So one day, the idea of one day a week. Or maybe even, when you're starting out, maybe it's just a half a day. That's what you can do. Have a half a day. And it doesn't have to be Sunday. And if you're Jewish, it doesn't, unless you're, really religious and your whole family is observing this together, it doesn't have to be Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. The idea is you choose the day. You choose what works for you. One day a week to connect with the heart. One day a week to recharge our batteries. One day a week to disconnect from devices. Ooh. Oh. One day a week to, stop trying to prove ourselves in the world. One day a week to turn our focus inward rather than outward. One day a week to experience who we truly are, that divine life expressing. Again, that just sounds like something that we would want, that we need, this idea of unhooking from, the pressure of trying to make life work and just allow life to unfold in an unstructured way. Oh, that sounds so good. That sounds good to me. And yet, when we try to do this, I know for myself, I try to do this, after a while I go, oh, what about that email that I've been expecting? I gotta check my emails. What about that phone call I gotta make, What about that thing that only I can handle? What about, I got a really good picture, right? What about that picture that I can post on Facebook or Instagram? What about those things? And then there's the, what if I get really bored? What if it gets really boring? Right? So it is a challenge. It's a practice, one that I have not mastered at all. But I want to, because the rewards are enormous. What we're after is nurturing our growing consciousness, as we were talking about last month, nurturing our growing consciousness, nurturing our growing awareness of who we truly are, awakening to that divine life that is within us and allowing the fullness of that divine love, to be with us and to radiate throughout our mind and our body. That experience, right? That experience we can't really have in the midst of the busyness of our day, right? It just doesn't come in the midst of a busy life. And so what happens is that the level that we can get to is that maybe we see God outside of ourselves. On a really good day in the middle of our busy week, maybe we can see that God is expressing as the beauty of nature. Maybe we can see God at work in the love and compassion that certain people are sharing in an act of compassion. Maybe we can see God reflected in the smile of a child. And that's all, that's where God is, yes. That's yes. And can we experience more? Can we experience ourselves as that infinite essence, that infinite divine essence expressing? Can we see ourselves? Can we get to the realization that we are that infinite divine presence, and it is all around us. We're living, moving, and having our being in it. Can we get to the realization and the experience that we are that life in which our mind and our body are having a human experience? That is the awareness that I think Chris Nygren, a couple weeks ago when she spoke, you guys, how many of you heard that talk? I think that's what she was talking about, is that about the water, that we are the water in which the fish are swimming, in which the stones of our experience are rippling out onto the water. So that deep realization, we can't get to that in the middle of the busyness of our life. So that's why we want to take aside one day, free of distractions, and just kind of pause the doingness and just be. Just be. Let's all breathe that in. That experience of just being, right? And then maybe we can live into that awareness that Thich Nhat Hanh so beautifully expressed when he said, enlightenment is when the wave realizes it's the ocean. So not part of the ocean, the ocean expressing as a wave. And so, I have been sharing with you my sort of journey with my brother this year. Many of you have heard this. And what I really came to realize, I was back out in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago for the funeral. What I realized that he had this really strong core desire to experience himself as the ocean expressing as a wave. I think that was always a part of him. I think that's what drew him to his spiritual community, where he became very much involved, where his life kind of, was surrounded with this. And, when I went to his apartment, the most valuable things when we were cleaning out his apartment were the books. The books. And I was like, wow, he's reading this? There were like notes on the Dhammapada and the Bhagavad Gita and all of these esoteric, sacred texts. And to see what was important to him, where he was highlighting, So we go, oh yeah, that was really speaking to you. And that really helped me. It helps me now. I took those books. It really connect to have that. Oh yeah, that's where so this desire to experience this has really compelled him through his life. And so the burial that we had was a burial at sea. He didn't leave a will or any kind of instructions, which kind of threw us all into a tizzy, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the presentation this afternoon after the service, to please, everybody, have your wishes written down and a will, and take care of that, because then everybody else is just kind of struggling to keep up. But so he didn't leave anything, but we thought when somebody mentioned, do you know you can have a full body burial at sea? I'm not talking about ashes, I'm talking about a full body burial. That used to be reserved for naval officers, but now the public can do it. And you go out 15 miles this is off the coast of California, and there's a place, a latitude and longitude they give you so you know where that is. And you say goodbye and release that into the ocean. And what happens is that the body, there's holes in the casket. So the body, when it goes back to, substance, his body is going back to the ocean. This is where he spent his life, in the ocean. As I've mentioned several times, he was a surfer. And he spent every possible moment in the ocean, because that was his connection with spirit. That was his connection with the one. This is where he realized, that he was the ocean expressing as a wave. And now that's actually happening. On all levels, on all levels. And then the casket becomes a reef. It's made of steel like a ship, when ships sink, they become a habitat for fish. So it just felt so perfect. Yeah. So again, that desire to, fully realize who we truly are, what our source is, I think it's in all of us. In fact, I think it's humanity's need. Humanity's need to discover its source. I think throughout history, humanity has been seeking its source in one way or another. And at different cultures, different, rituals begin, and religions, a different experience of each one in different cultures, depending on where you're from. But at the bottom of that, the core of that, there's this need that humanity has to experience its source. This is why it's really important for us to honor that deep desire and honor that need that we have to experience to have that experience. And when we begin to realize that we are this infinite source expressing in an individualized way, then maybe we can begin to realize that we are swimming in a sea of limitless possibility. We're swimming in an ocean of good. We're swimming in an ocean of infinite potential. And not only are we swimming in this, not only are we living, moving, and having our being in this, but because we are conscious beings, because we are conscious co-creators, we have the ability to call forth from this infinite potential that's just waiting here. We have the ability to call forth what it is we truly desire to experience in our lives. That's our power as co-creator. This is our self-authority, our power of power. Speak the word, call it forth. So I want you to think about something that you really desire to have, to do, to be, whatever. Don't be shy. Think about it. You know, if it's more love in your life, companionship, more abundance of something, more peace, more joy, you know, a fulfilling experience, success, whatever it is. Just think about it for a moment. Just be with it, embrace that. Okay, so know that that is already yours. It is already yours. It's already here in the absolute, in the infinite divine mind, but it will remain only in potential until you realize that you're a co-creator and you call it forth. And this is what we're doing with affirmative prayer. This is the tool we have in Unity. Affirmative prayer is a step-by-step process for realizing our oneness with this divine possibility and calling it forth and bringing it into our experience. Right? Bringing it into that reality for us. So, one of my favorite passages in Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth, and Emily Cady was a leader in New Thought, and she had a big influence on the Fillmores. And Lessons in Truth, she says, one of the unerring truths of the universe is that there is already provided a lavish abundance for every human want. The supply of every good always awaits the demand. Another truth is that the demand must be made before the supply can come to fill it. To recognize these two statements of truth and to affirm them are the whole secret of understanding faith. Faith based on principle. Don't you just want to marinate in that awareness? Just, really experience what that means. And I think, to really embody it, to really get it, we need to do that. This is why we set aside time and space in order to open to that deeper awareness, right? It's a deeper awareness. So let's talk now about ways that we can do that. Ways that we can access that deep awareness and really we're creating the container for this deeper experience of who we truly are and life in general to happen. We don't want to do anything. Remember, we're pausing the doing and we're being, but we're also setting the stage. We also want to set the stage for this to occur. So what are some of the ways that we can do that? So, one of the things is we can have, on that day, our day of Sabbath, we can have an extended meditation. Or maybe a visualization or a visioning process that we do. And then from that, we can do the affirmative prayer work. Right? Nature, being in nature. My goodness. There's such a beautiful way. And we're so blessed to be in North Carolina, I have to say. Just you walk out your door and there you are in the forest. Wow. It's right here. To just be in nature and experience that connection. And, you know, you can also invite your family to do this with you. And I know, you know, because I had young kids too. And if you have children, you're probably going, oh, well, this is all well and good. If you are single and you have no responsibility, I got kids, you know, what am I going to do there? And I had the same experience. I had the same challenge, you know, when my twins were young. How do I do this? And honestly, you can't take a whole day, really, basically, unless they go away to camp, right? Then you go. But, you know, I would, every, time they napped, you know, I was like, oh, yes, I got a moment to meditate here. Every time they went for a play date at, you know, a friend's house, ooh, now there's a nice chunk of time. You know, I can actually do some really work on the stuff that's important to me. And, you know, some of these things that we can do together and get creative together. So I want to open it up to have a discussion about what you have done that's worked for you, or an idea that you might have to help facilitate this, setting the stage for this awareness to blossom inside of you. Anybody want to share an idea that you have done or you think maybe might be a good idea? Yeah, Mary Angela.
I work for the children's program, and then when you're planning to teach them spirit, you're reawakening things on a very basic level.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that the basic is really the most powerful.
Right. For those of you on the live stream, I'll try to repeat. So she was working for the children's program and realizing that when you're working on that for them, you're awakening it within yourself on a basic level. Sometimes it's the basics that really can make a huge difference. Yeah, truly.
Well, I'll back on that, or add to that, is like taking a walk out in nature and holding the hand imaginatively of your inner child and having a conversation with that child and listen to what they say back.
Ooh, I love that. That's a great thing. We all heard that because the speaker was on. Yeah, thank you.
Intuitive journaling.
Intuitive journaling. Okay, Gaines says intuitive journaling. So journaling, we know what journaling is. So intuitive is really getting in touch with your inner voice, your inner intuition, and allowing it to write on the page. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, Cheryl.
To add something to what Gaines said, using journaling for personal inquiry, so ask a question instead of presenting it to others, ask it of yourself. And do the question in one color of ink and then pick up another color of ink to answer it.
Ooh,
and answer it from your heart.
Oh, that's good. So if you didn't hear that, Cheryl's is suggesting journaling where you're asking the question. What did you call it? Inquiry?
Personal inquiry.
Personal inquiry, where you can ask the question in one color ink and then you take another color ink and you're allowing the answer to come forth from a deep place, I think, probably, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else have an idea to share how we can do this? I think, you know, getting creative. Somebody was talking about dance yesterday, right? Isn't that a beautiful way to really get that spirit in your body? We're spirit, mind, and body people. So movement, any kind of movement, you know, kind of opens us up for a deeper realization to occur. Or if you're, you know, a songwriter, if you're playing an instrument, if you're an artist, you're painting, I think all of these things really, it really kind of help get us to that place where we can invite in that consciousness that really wants, that we're nurturing our spirit here. We're caring for our soul. We are unhooking, we're setting aside some time to unhook from the pressure of our everyday life and connect with something truly joyful. And honestly, joy is something that will absolutely begin to grow over time as we do this. You know, the self-inquiry thing can bring up a lot of things that maybe we need to kind of work through. But how freeing that is to do that. And that obviously leads to joy when we're free of all of that stuff. All right, so how many people are going to try this idea? Creating a little Sabbath. I see your hands going up there. All right, good. All right, let's do it, okay? All right, namaste. Namaste.